Max has traded in the wrench for a keyboard. He's now Max the Type Nitro. Fresh buds now.
Fresh and
All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all my buds. Today, I'm very happy to welcome a bud, Mr. Vishra, Mr. Barrett Goss. How you doing? Welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about.
Hey, dude. Really? I thought it was a pretty quiet week, right? Nothing happened in Fab. Just business as usual.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Just I've actually kind of noticed, and those who are looking at the title of this podcast, they probably already know that we're going to be talking about some bands that happen, and then also probably a new set. But it just seems they always kind of line it up. They're like, we're going to throw some bands that are going to like make people kind of feel a certain way, and then don't worry, we're going to give you some treats after. It's like conditioning us. I don't know.
They know what they're doing or something. Like they've had some practice with this, right?
Yeah. Well, they've seen it go well, and they've seen it go, poorly. So they have some data on it, I would say. Now, before we do talk about that, we got to get to know you, my friend, and your story with card games. First, talk about when you got into TCGs, because from my knowledge of you, I know you've been a gamer for a minute now.
Mm-hmm. I started playing Magic with Apocalypse. For anyone who's old and remembers those cards back when they were, white border, the old artifact borders and stuff like that. I was introduced by a sibling to that and got hooked really young. Had Magic cards and the Harry Potter card game, which for those of you who have never seen them before are some of the cards of all time. And just stuck with card games ever since. Played a bunch of Magic, Hearthstone, Yu-Gi-Oh! Got really big into Gwent for a long time, Artifact. Took a bit of a break for a while after Artifact and Gwent kind of went their separate ways. And then a couple years ago, a friend got me back in, hooked with Marvel Snap, actually.
Oh.
And it kind of just like got the itch back. And then this was somebody who was a Lexi only player, basically, and was like, okay, let me teach you how to play Fab. And we sat down one day. He was like, he knows me as a card game player. He was like, you're going to play Icelander. Don't worry about anything else. Just look at this hero. And hooked ever since.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad that you're hooked because, get to see you at events and stuff like that. We'll talk about an event we saw each other at over the weekend. But funny enough, I think, and this is just like racking my brain, this is 238 episodes of this show. And I think this is only, and people can comment if I'm wrong, the second time the Harry Potter card game has ever been brought up. I don't remember who talked about it, but somebody talked about it, and I forgot to look up what those cards look like. So I'm gonna have to actually make a note to actually
They're
finally.
awful.
Yeah.
They
I
are.
can only imagine.
I think it made it 2 sets total, which is one more than I think anyone would have expected, to be honest. But I remember I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10, and I got a box set for Christmas, and it was like 50 packs of cards. And I'm there super excited, like, oh, it's Magic, it's Pokemon, it's Yu-Gi-Oh!, whatever. And it's the Harry Potter card game. And I can't remember the name of the other one, but it was basically like a sorcery type game with a bunch of like terrible artwork, what you would expect for that time period. So me as a 10-year-old expecting to get like a Charizard or something like that of a pack, instead got Harry Potter and a bunch of potions. So
I mean, it's so funny just like thinking back at that era of just Harry Potter like branded or licensed stuff. Like, I think people still post the meme of like the PS1 Hagrid all the time that just is just like geometric shaped, and I can only imagine the card game was just as good as that. Now, you got in with Icelander, and Did you know you wanted to jump into the competitive side right away? Have you always been invested in being competitive in these games? So that was just kind of a no-brainer?
Yeah, I've been competitive like from a pretty young age. Back in the day, I was doing the Magic circuit for Yu-Gi-Oh was YCS, and then they became SJCs. Hearthstone, I did a lot of online tournaments and did the semi-pro circuit with it. Gwen, I played professionally. Artifact, I kind of switched to like a player and caster role with it. Uh, and then part of the compelling part to me is that you hear it a lot from anyone who's like an older Magic player for Fab, is felt like that kind of atmosphere. And for someone like me who really comes from that competitive drive in the background, it's like that perfect time period where you could play anything competitively like almost every week of the season. The metas were compelling. They didn't rotate too fast or really too slow. There was a lot of like really intricate decks to play across different formats. So it's kind of like that perfect storm of what I always have liked about card games. And then you wrap it up in a game that's just incredibly complex. The community is second to none for any kind of card game. And it's really just kind of like the perfect game for me. So I started my second week, I flew to Atlanta for the Battle Hardened there. I didn't own a deck until I got there, and I got to the venue 45 minutes beforehand to pick up my order from MinMax. Shout out to Peter, because I was short in Emeritus Scolding and was about to be a card short because I literally only owned 79 cards then, and he hands me a signed one out of their cell binder and just let me borrow it for the day. Having never met me or anything like that. A ticket to fly to Vegas and play the calling. So like I jumped right in. For anyone who tells you like you can't just jump in competitively, my first sanctioned event in Flesh and Blood was a Battle Hardened. My second one was a calling.
That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, rightfully so. Shout out to Peter, because Peter, there's a reason MinMax is, so awesome in this game. And that is pretty incredible that you took that jump like that. I remember to me, a jump into this game was like, I'm going to go up to Hoboken for RTN and play like a really bad chain deck. So that's awesome to hear. Now, you jump right in. I want to flash forward to like where you're at now with the game, because obviously it's been a couple years. What are your like aspirations, goals, and like maybe just expectations for like the rest of this year? Because it is a busy year coming up. We have a pro tour in the States again. We have Yokohama coming up, and then of course nationals as well.
Yeah. Last year I kind of started to take the jump with getting to approach the majors and the tier 3s a bit more seriously than the year before. I kind of took the year before that as a bit of a growing experience. Even if you're a card game veteran, Fab is hard. Like getting back in the grind with it, understanding how the cards work, the card pool, it's just so deep and so complex that I think even for good card game players, you can have a hot start, but like to really kind of get into the nitty gritty with it and kind of develop that deep skill set throughout the game takes a bit of time. So last year was my first year really trying to push hard at the high level events. Had some good finishes, some bad finishes, but really started to put together, I think, around Nats season. Finished 25th at Nats. And kind of just want to push through that with this year. My goal this year is to play all the majors, so both Pro Tours and Worlds, have a good finish at Nats again. Just see what we can do with callings and stringing together some pretty successful tournaments. But that's what I'd like to do with this year, is really kind of bringing together all the practice and the preparation the last couple of years and kind of just solidify that next step with it. And that's part of the fun for me of Fab, is those competitive situations.
Yeah, you kind of hit on something, like how much actual like work this is to like kind of get to that point, right? Like to be competitive, and even like, personally to like just kind of put it out there. Like I felt like I had to take a little bit of a break from like playing more because, I was moving and some like personal stuff. And then when you get back into it, it like takes a minute. You got to like, hop back into the saddle really and focus. So, glad to hear that you're kind of like grinding, doing all the majors. That's going to be awesome. Obviously, now that you've been on the show, we're going to be rooting for you. Before, not so much, but now definitely. But I got a question. Like, are you testing with a team, or are you kind of, working just with some locals by yourself? What's your approach?
Yeah, so I'm on a team called Stroopwafels, which is a bunch of players who a lot of them are on various other teams, but it's primarily from a testing perspective and just from like a group of friends who get together and do a lot of stuff. I'm really fortunate. There's a lot of really good players there. Shout out to Yuki, who's kind of like the captain of it. But we've had a lot of success since I think this iteration has kind of been together since Osaka and has put someone. We had Mercy made finals of Osaka. We had somebody top 8 in London, and then for Worlds, both Ian and Caleb Armajin Bay both top 8'd. So we've had some pretty good success and results over the past in major events. There's a lot of prep work that goes into it if you want to kind of approach it from a team perspective. So there's just a ton of grinding. There's a lot of stuff whenever you're figuring out different formats. In this case, we have Sage. We'll talk about the bans for Sage and the upcoming bans for CC and the changes there. So there's just a lot of work that goes into it from that perspective. But one of the most fun things about card games to me is the community and the people you get to play with. And there's a real joy to getting to approach something competitively and knowing you're going to put a lot of time and effort in with people who want to approach it in the same perspective, in the same fashion. So I'm fortunate to get to work with a bunch of people who are really passionate about the game and really approach it from that high input and insight and data-driven approaches, and really want to put the time in to kind of make sure that they understand and master both the format and the decks in it to approach tournaments as best as possible. And it's had really good results, I think, so far.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, those are some huge names, and you're a big name too. So it's just like what are you gonna do?
I mean, that's brag, but I carry the team. Like,
everybody.
What can I say?
That's what they're all saying. That's what the forums are saying. I don't, Purple Discord. I popped in there. Things got a little dicey. I hopped right back out and headed to the Buds Discord. But but yeah, no, I love this community, and especially when you get to play with people. Like if you're playing a lot with people that you really enjoy and you are like-minded and you approach it the same way is awesome. And then like even outside of like just like general community is awesome. Like I love going to like whenever I see you at events like in the Pennsylvania area, like that community is so awesome, right? I mean, Jersey's got a great community as well. It just feels better to like even like nobody wants to lose, but if you are gonna lose, you might as well be around people you like too. So
exactly.
Now let's do your fresh faves, and then we're going to hop right into the main topic. But fresh faves, I'm going to ask you some of your favorite cards in the game, and you're going to answer them whether you like it or not. So
fair.
Starting off, who's your favorite hero?
Icelander. No question.
How bummed are you that she's not quite great in Sage?
Pretty unhappy, not gonna lie. Like I wish she was a little bit better. And we'll probably get into it a bit later. She kind of feels like one of those heroes that's just like a step below those top ones, where you can take her to a local event. And I actually think that the Sage intro deck is really, really good for her. Like it's not perfect, but it does a lot of what she wants to do and really kind of shows off her identity as a hero. Funnily enough, I think one of her biggest weaknesses is that she doesn't have a waning moon, which like sounds pretty obvious to start off with, but she has a lot of these little plays that you want to do on your opponent's turn. And previously when you have waning moon, you kind of have enough stuff to sink into a full blue that you're pitching. And right now you don't really have that. So it's like, I don't really want to spend one resource to shoot someone with an ice bolt or something like that. Or play a cold snap or a polar blast or something like that, and then not have the waning moon with it. So she exists and she has a lot of her card pool now, but she's just in this awkward state where she wants to spend resources but doesn't have enough things to spend it on. So you kind of start to kind of fall back into that Bullander approach of having to just throw attacks, throw spells on your turn, and only really get to use like the 0 cost spells. So I like seeing her again. The first time I got to sleeve back up Aether Ice Veins, I was over the moon. And I'll keep playing her locally until James White prints hopefully more blue ice 3 blocks that are usable.
That'd be nice. And then maybe some kind of waning moon replacement. I have to imagine that's got to be something that's in the works, but We will see. Now, is Waning Moon your favorite weapon?
No, Luminaris is.
Yes, yes. I figured this would come up because I've played against you on Prism. Now, is it OG Luminaris or the newest version? Not the second version.
Yeah, it's definitely not the second one. Yeah, we'll keep that one out of here. Funnily enough, like I think one of my biggest regrets with Fab is that I got it and only really got like 5 months with Icelander when I started. And I think that I was still like a really bad player at the time. Like looking back on it now, like I was a terrible Flesh and Blood player. And New Prism was kind of like where I really got to sink my teeth in and start to kind of see myself have those results with it. But the first time that you play with OG Luminaris is like the first time that you recognize that there's two distinct periods of Fab's history. One of like the modern Fab design and one of what the hell were they thinking here? Like you just look at it and you just do like the most disgusting things like here's Mirage Metamorph with Go again. Here's Phantasmal Symbiosis with Go again. Here's Herald of Erudition hitting and then I smack you a few more times. Like it's if they would give it back, I'd play it immediately. Obviously it's never gonna happen, but
No.
They don't make them like they used to.
No, they certainly don't. I mean, I remember the first time I played against that, right? I never was a Prism player, but I remember having to read that card like 5 times before I was just like, this can't be, right? And it was good pick though. Good pick though. What's your favorite equipment?
One of my favorite stories. Sorry.
Oh yeah, go for it.
One of my favorite stories that I've heard was do you know why we have the hero? You probably know why we have signature weapons for heroes in Fab.
Is that because I mean I remember when they introduced it. I don't remember the exact reason. Is it because of Prism?
So, from what I've been told, it was because of Luminaris, and Luminaris is just such a design issue going forward that you can't just leave it there because any future Prism will always use it. So she's why we have it tied to weapons and they rotate. But then the reason why we have young heroes not playable in CC is after she LL'd, somebody went to a tournament with young Prism and proceeded to beat an old him in a CC old him with young Prism. Yeah. Which then promptly also added on the caveat of not only are their weapons rotating, we can't play young heroes in CC anymore. So that's like one of my all-time favorite Fab things of just how ridiculous Luminaris and Prism as an extension were at the time, was you could just be like, I'll take 20 points just to be able to play this.
Yeah, that was crazy. I also remember around that time that somebody, I think it might have been like an AGE tournament, but like somebody was like 1-0 on young original KO that just
sure.
Like I don't remember who they beat round 1, but like it was so funny because they were like there's a 1-0 like KO was Runt or something like that, and
Berserker Runt,
yeah, and they put it on stream and it's crazy. They could have won too. They were playing against a Prism and was not popping things correctly, I don't think. But I think the player was new. So it was very cool either way. I'm glad we don't have young heroes in CC anymore. Equipment. What's your favorite equipment?
Oh, this one's actually kind of hard. I don't know if I have a specific favorite. I think one of the more elegant ones to me, and the ones that I have enjoyed from a deck building perspective, is Vestige of Soul. Prism with Tome and Vestige is some of the most fun Flesh and Blood I've had, and there's this history in Fab of some of the most broken cards we've ever had are ones that get to cheat on resources. So you think Skeleta or Awakening, things of that nature. If you go to LL right now, it's the Dio deck with the Armory deck chest piece that just makes 1 billion resources for free. Vestige is a way that you get resources for free, but is in kind of a controlled aspect. And it really unlocks an entire way to play Prism that we really can't do now without tomes. But it just always felt like a really elegant way for me of kind of being that middle point of this is a way to add additional resources, but there's a gate behind it and a way that you can, if you're a good deck builder and you have a plan going into it, you can take advantage of this in a way that might not really seem like it's face value to it. So like I've always really enjoyed kind of getting to play the deck with that chess piece and just kind of the things that it enables in Fab.
Yeah, I remember like even like with OG Prism, I could be wrong here, but I don't think that chess piece got a lot of play, and I never really understood why. I'm like, we can get, so much value out of it, but I wasn't a Prism player, so I wasn't even going to try to figure it out. But it's so cool that it's now seeing play. Obviously, it was a little bit better with tomes, but then again, everything was. So, but good pick. Now, favorite class and or talent card that you throw into your deck?
Felling of the Crown is probably my favorite card of all time. It's either that or like Aether Ice Vein, but the second that they revealed Felling of the Crown, it just like stuck in my head. If you remember, it was like that Nats that Evan won in 2024, and he went on stream and got to spoil like the first card of Rosetta, and I missed Original Tales, so like I got to catch the heroes in the back end, but I wasn't there like for the reveal or anything like that. And they spoiled Felling, and I remember just like going home, and over the next 2 weeks, it just kept constantly popping into my head. Like everything from like the artwork to the text line of it was ridiculous. I'm like, I have to play this card. And since Rosetta came out, I've had either Florian or Verdance as like either my primary deck or one of the like backup 2 decks the entire time. It's just everything about it is like what I enjoy with card games in a lot of ways. And it's like right at that top power level, does like a really cool effect. I like it.
It fires on all cylinders. I mean, it's so good. Yeah. So good. And
it's such a good feeling to throw one.
Yeah, it really is. Oh man. I do love buzzsaw trapping them though, but that's just me, obviously.
Yeah.
I have issues.
Players, man.
What's your favorite generic card? Bonus points if it blocks for 2.
Oh, I'm not a Snatch player. Funnily, one of my favorite cards that I never get to play is Pursuit of Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blue that lets me have a higher intellect. I'm about that. Yeah. It does block 2 as well. It's my favorite card that I just will never put in a deck. You can pummel it. Yeah. You also can play it with a Prismatic Leyline and hit somebody for 7 with it.
That's pretty good.
Gravy players, switch up your deck lists.
Yeah.
Don't actually do
that. Yeah. They just had the new promos of that. It looks pretty sweet, right?
They did. They're gorgeous. Yeah.
What's your favorite token?
That's a tough one. Oh, they're all so good. Probably Frostbites. The community at large has a hatred of ice, but there's just something just so appealing to me of the idea that if I play a turn correctly, like I can just give you this little innocuous thing and it just shuts your turn down.
Like, I think they no. So I've been on record that I think what they did with Jarl and how they handled Frostbites with Jarl, I was a big fan of that, right? Like it still can be insanely brutal if you play the game wrong. It puts the pressure on you as the opponent, which I like. So it can be crazy, but also like, we see a lot of aggro decks, and we have we'll be talking about, we have a lot of lightning heroes coming to the game.
Oh yeah.
That maybe the Frostbites should be coming a little bit sooner rather than later, but that is what it is. Now, if you were in the world of Wraith, Vishra, what class and talent would you be?
So a friend once told me that I approached card games as a zero-sum game. The more fun you have, the less I get to have. And that my approach is that I get to have all the fun and take it all from you. So I think the single most like toxic thing I could do would be an Ice Runeblade. And I've been very clear that I think that we'll never get one. I think it's like probably the most busted combination you can do. But I'd take it if you give it to me.
I think you're not alone on that. And, I've always been able to tell that you are that kind of gamer too. So I'm glad that you're not going to get it. So, because like I'll run into you round 1 at some PQ and just be like, oh, here we go. So,
okay. All I'm going to say, just here's my just one word pitch or one line pitch. Imagine how cool an Ice Rune chant would look. Or an Ice Rune Blade.
That would look really cool. I mean, I loved the variations that we got in Rosetta. Those were sick.
Mm-hmm.
Those were sick. A nice one would be cool. I don't know. I don't know. You haven't convinced me yet, but that's all right. Now, one last question here before we get to the main topic, but I gotta know, in your estimation, what is the greatest set of all time?
So
By whatever metric you want, right? Like, some people say theme, limited experience, what it did for CC, the long-lasting effect it had on the game, yada, yada, yada.
I think that probably the best set of all time is Tails, but maybe not for the reason that most people would think of. I think most people would probably look of it as like it's the most powerful set of all time. It has the most design mistakes of all time. It arguably, in a lot of ways, is like does a lot of things that put Fab in jeopardy almost in terms of like what it did to the game. Starvo kind of like being the menace it was afterwards with pieces from that and kind of some of the stuff that it introduced. But I think that Elemental Heroes and just the world of Aria, the cards that we get out of it, are the best things that we get in Fab. Even if you're someone like me who's sad that we didn't get Ice back with Omens, it just every time that it comes out, the set does insanely well. People resonate really well with the heroes. The designs are super interesting and engaging. I just think that like Tails kind of started this whole path of us with all the elemental talents. And every time that we go back to it, the set is just absolutely incredible. So probably Tails.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair because it brought a lot of people to the game, and I think that can't be denied. And with like Rosetta being the follow up, I think that was such a home run. We'll see how Omens is, but we saw a little bit of a sneak peek already. So yeah, I like that answer. It's not mine, but it's a common answer on the show. So
is it Outsiders?
Mine's like different based on theming. It's Outsiders, right? I got Riptide and stuff like that. My favorite CC like effect on the game was Heavy Hitters, right? I loved that kind of CC environment. And then limited, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to not say High Seas. So we'll see. I also loved Rosetta Limited. That was a lot of fun as well.
I'll say my biggest, like the reason why I don't say Rosetta is because I think that in some ways, like it kind of just took a bunch of Runeblade cards and said, we're just going to make these power crept better, which I both liked and hated. I will say I like as a certified limited hater, Rosetta is probably my favorite draft format of all time. And the only one that I like looked forward to having to play because I really just like the silos within it. So I think that's a really good answer too, actually.
Yeah, it's cool. And I'm interested to see how Omens is going to be, but we got to talk about Sage first. We saw each other.
Okay, fine.
We saw each other at a Sage Pro Quest over the weekend. I gave in. I played 2 Sage Pro Quests. First week I played Fang and went 3-3 and did not make top 8. So I gave in and I played KO. And I did make top 8, but then lost in the first round. Got some bad variants. And that seems to be the story with Sage. But how did it go for you?
Not too bad. I seem to recall at one point us kind of chatting and talking about the podcast and saying how, it'd be really cool if one of us won this and they got to go on the pod about it. So I took that to heart and I just decided I was going to LL early in the season and just LL on Sage. So it worked out pretty well. I did it playing drumroll, Briar. I know you're all surprised by this knowledge.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was by far the best deck in the format, right? I mean, and who's surprised, really, right? I mean, Briar manages to be great no matter what. Just kind of how that card pool is, and also the hero text, which is a little crazy. You used to be able to just make as many embodiment of Earthers as you want, you know. It's back in my day.
I have said that for LL, if we're actually going to play this format at full power in the future again, just unerrata her. Like, I want like everything here. If you're going to do this, like, do that again. Not for Sage though.
No, not for Sage. Yeah, I do remember us joking a little bit, and I remember joking saying that if I won, this is the best format ever made. If I lost, it's the worst format ever made, and it is the worst. Now, I don't know if it's the worst. I like what it's doing for some things, but I'm more interested in what you think, and we'll talk about the bans in a second. But what are your overall thoughts on this format? Because you're gonna have to think about it a little bit more as someone who's, you know, attending majors. You know.
Mm-hmm. So I've long had a contentious relationship, I want to say, with young hero formats. Limited aside because the formats are built for it. I've always thought that Fab kind of has this structural problem with young hero formats where you have a card pool that is built around 40 life on heroes. All of our balance levers are pulled around a game length that goes towards doing 40 damage. Our cards are balanced around a 40 health life pool. So whenever you cut that in half, you invariably will run into problems, right? We have cards that our standard CC rate is like 3 points of value for a card. Well, in CC, a 0 for 4 go again is like good, but usually not game warping. In a young health format, suddenly that 1 point is effectively like 2. So anything above like a small margin becomes much bigger. Anything that's like a little bit bigger than that becomes a problem. So I've always kind of approached the young hero formats with like a bit of a, I don't know how I feel about this situation. And Sage has so far, I think, kind of been that mixed bag, where we got the initial kind of soft launch of it, and we immediately, you know, the community found Chain. Surprise, surprise, Chain is really good still. Got rid of Chain here, and now we have suddenly, surprise, surprise, another Runeblade doing a lot of the same value proposition trades. But I like a few of the things that they're trying to do with it. The ban list that they just did, they had an interesting explanation with it that of how they're going to approach the format compared to CC, where it's going to be focused not on making the format necessarily as perfectly balanced as possible, but we'll be going around making it a puzzle every 3 to 4 months. We'll be kind of aggressively utilizing the ban list to change that up and approaching it from the perspective of how to keep things as fresh as possible all the time, basically, for players. So I think there's a lot of really interesting things with it. Do I think that it is a format that should be at every Pro Tour? No. Do I think it's a format that I'm going to, you know, want to have an entire PQ season on? Probably not. But I think it's really interesting so far. And once they get some of these outliers out of the format, that'll be a much more interesting and maybe a bit more in-depth format than it currently is.
Yeah, I guess once we get the voting going, right, you know, like obviously like the preemptive ban on Chain was welcome. I was interested to see that there was nothing really hit for Chain in this one, because does Chain return for the Pro Tour or after?
No, so the heroes coming off the list is with each set is basically when the season resets for each of them. So he won't be back until June. So they have at least like one more ban list that they get to touch him with. And they've already said that we're going to have some amount of bans for him. I think it's going to have to be multiple of them probably, if I had any guess, especially with Deep Recesses being a card now that's absolutely crazy and making CC waves even. So we'll definitely see another hit with him. Community, be ready. Briar's gone. Please use your other ban on KO. I'm going to put the public request in now, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, like, you know, I'll be interested to see actually how they implement the actual voting. You know, like, is it like rank based or whatever? I don't know if we've seen it at all, but I guess we now have a couple weeks, or maybe a month or two before we're even going to see that. But for those who want to know what the bans are, they ban Bracers of Belief, Lightning Press, all colors, Aether Spindle, all colors, Steelblade Shunt, all colors, Sirens, all colors, and Burn Up Shock. But they unbanned Amulet of Ice, Rake the Embers, and Rootbound Carapace. Those two in all colors as well. Interesting. No hits on KO, a hero you just mentioned.
What do you mean? We got rid of Sirens of Safe Harbor.
Yeah, it was 2 slots, right? Yeah, 2 slots in the sideboard. Now you can just play a better 6.
Yeah, right. Blocks.
You know, no hits on KO. I think so. Like, interesting enough, and like I don't know off the top of my head what the cards in this ban list that would affect any of the precons, because that was like the difficult thing. Like, when I was thinking about what are they going to ban, well, I wouldn't, like, if I was LSS, I don't want to ban something that's in a precon, right? I mean, that's the whole point of them. Like, you can pick this up for $20 and do really well. And I think that is a interesting thing. The shunt makes sense, right? I'm surprised Decimator Great X is staying, but shunt does, make that deck a lot better. What are your other thoughts here?
Same with Sirens.
Yeah, Sirens as well. And, Burn Up Shock, I think, is a good hit. Lightning Press, I think, is a good hit. What do you think about these? Is this enough?
So, first off, I'm also surprised that Decimator Great Axe didn't get hit, specifically not because I think that the format can't in any way deal with it. I think that the hits that Dorian Warriors as a whole took with the Steelblade Shunt and the Sirens bans are actually really significant for the deck and affects just how good it is in the format. My thought was that they've been very vocal about Sips and the power level of them in the format. And we've kind of across the board said, if they're above a certain rate, just get it out of here, especially with weapons. And Decimator Great Axe is kind of one of those weapons that I thought was kind of, we overlooked this, we'll take care of it now. So they very clearly went with a different direction of how they wanted to approach that specific part of the meta. I think that given the way that they approach this ban list and what they stated there, if it's still a problem, we'll see it probably go in the future. But it's an interesting way to approach that specific thing. The first one I want to talk about is actually the unbans, because I think that there's something really interesting with the unbans. These are 3 of the cards that probably would be considered the most powerful ones on the ban list if you asked a lot of people. Amulet of Ice, banned in CC with Icelander, too good there. Was banned in Blitz, has long been considered like one of the best pieces of Icelander if she's allowed to have it. So this doesn't really affect any of the other Ice heroes. It's primarily Icelanders where you'd expect to see it. So this is just kind of saying, take the chains off of her. Short of Winnie Moon, she's going to be about as good as she can be with the current card pool. Huge thing there for her to get back. Rake the Embers has been the thing that, young health heroes have lived in fear of for a long time with Dromai. It is a card that just straight up says that some heroes lose the game when it gets played if they can't clear multiple allies in a turn. Huge upgrade there for Dromai. Suddenly makes her a relevant thing to look at in the format. Rootbound Carapace. Like, Florian, like stacking with Florian now, suddenly you don't have to play any attacks at all in the deck other than the ones you're going to kill somebody with. You have between like 4 and 8 decomposers now that are either defensive or with Chorus of Rotwood that just are kind of furthering your game plan along there. More earth in your graveyard. This card's insane. There's a reason it was banned. Terra gets it now if Terra wants to play it as well. So there's another 4-block in a Guardian deck. All 3 of these are huge power pieces, I think. And all of them kind of say LSS is letting us kind of have these 3 heroes with Icelander, Dromai, and Florian at full power. So I think that that's super interesting that they're just throwing these 3 heroes massive pieces into their card pool again. And really kind of pushes the point that they said in their intro of, we're going to mix this up with every ban list. So we really don't know what's happening. Now on the ban side, everybody knew that Briar was getting smacked here. We had the Pro Tour in 6 weeks. If you leave her in her state that she was going to be the most played deck. There's no reason not to play her. Is it enough, I think, is actually the real question to me. Funnily enough, I had this thought, because I think that most people going into the weekend thought that Press and Burn Up Shock were the 2 easy hits with her, right? Press is just kind of... You can't really do anything with playing around it in the format since you don't have D-Reacts, and Burn Up Shock is just an 0 for 5 that's incredibly hard to ever stop in the deck when it goes wide and has so many breakpoints. And then I played her on our ProQuest, and my first 4 games, I resolved and saw 0 burn-up shocks, and I saw 1 lightning press the turn I killed someone, and it was irrelevant. And I was just kind of there like, huh, is this really enough to get rid of these? Like, is it? Uh, the Bracers ban, I think, is actually a really good ban. Most people don't realize that Goliath Gauntlet is banned in the format until you go and you look at it, and you're like, okay. And in that deck, Bracers was just kind of better than that, while also enabling the Flourish package in the deck. So Bracers kind of bans 5 cards out. It bans Bracers and the blue and yellow Flourishes out of the deck. So it's actually like a really interesting ban for that. I think the Briar is probably not as dead as people might think that she is. I think that there's still exploration there, but there should be a bit more breathing room for other decks in the format, hopefully. Will she still be the premier aggro deck? I don't know about that, but she'll definitely still be around. What else do we have?
Aether Spindle. Yeah. Makes sense.
What's your feelings on Kano?
Kano? I mean, I think that like in general, like for Sage, so I think it's interesting, like based on what I've seen other people say, and my experience with that deck is that in the hands of some of the best players in the world, that deck is the sauce, right? That is like a really great deck. In the hands of people who are like maybe Fairweather Kano players or just like wanted to play Wizard in Silver Age, it's like a very difficult deck to play. And, you know, you can like you're at 15 health, right? Like you can easily lose, right? So I think the deck getting hit is, in my opinion, more for the Pro Tour, right? And less for, you know, Armory, right? I think that card was fine. That's my thoughts on it. I don't know though, right? I you know, all I've seen is that deck can be insane, but I've yet to actually experience it firsthand. I feel like, you know, in my testing, like the deck is really hard to get off the ground, I think, for like the common player who's like thinking that they can do it because it would win a couple events, right? So that's my thoughts on it. What about you? You're the guest here.
I gotta get you in too, right? I can't just go for 5 minutes about this. I think that Spindle's a really elegant ban here to at least start with for Wizards of the format, right? One of the pieces here that we haven't talked about at all is what's it this week? It's been so many things. Our Chapter 3 decks with the introduction of Blaze of the format.
Yes.
This is a piece that would have been kind of huge for her to have. Really forwards her game plan and her hero ability. But I think that the other card that was most likely on the chopping block for Kano was Emeritus Scolding, and that's a much bigger hit for both decks if you get rid of that in all colors. It seems like we're not really going to do the restriction in this format of like you can play one color of the 3. It's either all or nothing with them. So if you get rid of Aether Spindle here, it's basically targeting the reds out of the deck and maybe a bit of a like preemptive touch of when Blaze comes. But overall, I think that Kano definitely needed to be hit. He was kind of just barely getting held in check by Briar and KO being the 2 best decks. And there's some skill matchups like Enigma, but some of the other ones are just kind of freeform in the format. It's been a long time since people got hit with red Emeritus Scoldings, but Kano and Blitz was a monster. And Kano and Sage has a lot of the pieces that still made him good. It wasn't just Wildfire and Blazing. He just kind of can kill you out of nowhere. And again, we're seeing that whole thing of a 20 health format. 6 damage on your turn kind of sucks in CC. 6 damage on your turn when it's 20 health is just nuts. So I think that's a good hit. Is it enough? We'll see. I could also very well see he's either going to get banned out by the community because people are going to be tired of getting just blown out of the water by turn 2, or he gets a second hit later. But I think this is a good first stab at that to kind of lower his consistency a bit with the ops and the damage there and make it as a bit more of like maybe a cost to the deck and a little bit more uncertainty with it. So it's not quite as consistent.
Well, here's a question for you. Do you think they see the votes come in, they see Kano's gone? Do they unban this again for the introduction of Blaze?
I think they could. I think reasonably we'll see them do 2 or 3 ban list changes with this format each season. And if you're going to unban Rake the Embers with your first unbanning, I think you've kind of set the tone of the format here where you're saying, we'll give you back any power card, really. Like, I think there's going to be some, like, Sirens and Fiddler's Green and Sigil of Solace, stuff like that. We're never going to see them really come back, probably, because of the problems that they have. But I think that we could absolutely see Spindle come back, maybe Shunt if the format's right. If Briar's gone, you can kind of maybe consider Burn Up Shock for Aurora, or like the new Lightning Hero, since we're now getting a whole other set. So we'll see. But Spindle, I think, is the one that you could maybe justify bringing back the most of all these bans, because it's kind of, we don't really know if it's the correct hit for Kano or not, if it's good enough, if it's not good enough, if it's the right one to hit out of him. So I could see it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, I'm especially now that we've seen this ban list, and you know, like this is a big tell, like you said, like how willing, how aggressive they're going to be with this format, especially with the Pro Tours coming, and we're going to see it. It's got to be a good TV, right? Like that's really what it's got to be. So I thought that would have meant Decimator Grid Axe would have got banned, but I think with the Shunts gone, maybe that deck is just doesn't have really the legs as much, and we will see. So we did also get some other news, though. We keep hinting at it. We keep giving omens to what we were going to talk about earlier, but Omens of the Third Age. We are going to, is it Volthaven? I guess we're going to Volthaven, or just like the Cosmos, it almost seems like, but all lightning set, right? People thought that maybe ice, but they said, no, we got to do all lightning first because we got to return Aurora to the game. And they had told us that a while ago, right? I think when she LL'd the first time. And we also got a new version of Vasilio. And now we also have a lightning illusionist hero. Quickly, I'm going to just read the hero text. They're all 4 intellect, 40 health. No, not all 40 health. Vasilio got a whole nother 2 health at 38 now from his last edition. Aurora has the ability instant pay 2 resources, tap, destroy a lightning flow you control, create an embodiment of lightning token. We all know what embodiments are. Lightning flows are going to be just kind of this like generic style token in this game. They don't have any effect seemingly other than being destroyed and being created in the game. Ziggy Starlight is the lightning illusionist hero. They have the ability instant pay 2 resources, tap, destroy a lightning flow you control, banish another lightning aura permanent you control with no hollow counters, return the banished aura to the arena with a hollow counter. Seemingly, the hollow counters are just going to prevent looping. We will see if the hollow counters can be removed, but we have no idea. I'm hoping not, for the sake of all of us.
I can be trusted.
No. For the sake of, my mental health. Now, Brocilio forked it's Ocilio, but got way more jacked. Is forked continuum, has the ability instant pay 1 and tap, destroy a lightning flow you control, discard a card, and create a ponder token. If an instant is discarded this way, you may play it this turn. Okay. These are some interesting heroes. All the abilities notably have resources that you need to pay into them, right? So I guess, based on what we've seen some spoilers as well, but I won't get into all those, but what we've seen is you can't just go 0 for 4, go again with these. You got to do stuff. Right? You got to create the tokens and, manipulate them throughout the game. How do you feel about this? Also, notably, and this is something that I brought up in the Buds Discord, but unless there's a rule change, these are not elemental. Mm-hmm. So
that was going to be my first thing.
Yeah.
That's a huge shift here that we have. no elemental cards. So we were all kind of, I think, wondering in the back of our heads after dealing with Aurora 1 with Flicker Wisp and Arc Lightning. Is Flicker Wisp just banned on release here? Turns out if you just make them so they're not elemental, you get rid of a lot of the problem cards for Aurora. Because she loses Flicker Wisp, but she also loses Arcanic Shockwave. She loses Entwined Lightning. So it's actually really interesting, and I think a pretty elegant way to deal with a couple problem cards for these heroes, where you can remove something that was put in place originally as a way to kind of bridge these multi-talented heroes, since they were all dual elements at the time. And, you know, we're talking about Sage Briar here, right? Two of those cards that Aurora would play are Sage Briar All-Stars that are like potentially bannable because they're 0 for 5s. So I think it's a really cool way to balance that. I'm probably one of the people who was disappointed with the original announcement, at least at first glance. We were all here.
Disappointed or was not?
I was a dedicated contingent to thinking that if we're going to Volthaven, we naturally will get both Ice and Lightning.
Sure.
Icelanders watching the 1,000 Day Club will continue, unfortunately. But after seeing the heroes, I was really excited. I think that there's some really cool design spaces that they're touching here. A bit surprised to see Acilio back already. I wonder if they thought that he'd be gone by now and would also need a reboot. It turns out that all of that lifting only gets you 2 points of health, though. So I don't know if it's worth it or not at that point, but they're really, really cool. I think the fact that they're gated behind not just resources, but also a secondary resource system with lightning flow is a really cool lever that they can pull with a lot of different card designs, with a lot of different future expansion cards. So it feels like they approach these with the understanding of what made some of the past elemental heroes as powerful as they are, and ways to both keep them in check, but also make a really interesting set focused around probably the most powerful of the 3 elements that we have.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge, I think, like a huge surprise, right? Like the ice thing, yeah, obviously, but you know, I love that like these hero abilities are not free. Like, you know, I think you can have free hero abilities that still cost resources, but these are not free. You have to do work to even get them to the point that you want them to. And, you know, I'm going to say, I think I'm the most excited for this limited experience, because I think I've said that, like, while Bright Lights was not for me, there was something there about, like, you know, we all are sharing one kind of class in that. This is going to be Lightning. And there's going to be so many cards that you're going to focus on during the draft environment for this. I think it's going to be really cool. I am interested. It feels to me, based on what we've seen, that perhaps Acilio could be really good. Like, just like some cards that you're going to discard and just be able to play just seem really, really good. And that seems really interesting to me. The Illusionist question is the toughest, right? Because it like, you know, we've seen Illusionists be just good out the gates almost always, except for Second Prism, who needed to get another edition of Luminars to get to where she needed to be, and she's probably gone soonish.
Probably this season, I think.
Yeah, probably.
We didn't really touch on it, but like the next 3 weeks has 1,500 LO points getting thrown into it.
Oh,
and wow. Prism, yeah, it's the full amount for what effectively is half of our normal PQ season, because normally CC is the full 6 weeks. So I think anybody above like 700 points isn't safe. And we also have the multiplier in place, so her days are numbered. So we might be down to just Ziggy here for a minute for Illusionists.
Hey, listen, no complaints on my end. I mean, it will suck to see Mandible Claw go, but you know, they gave us that great replacement in Compendium of Wraith.
All-Star Savage Claw.
But yeah, I think the big question here is how good is that Illusionist going to be? One notable thing, you know, I just want to read out For the fans of Limited, we got another macro. I'm glad they're continuing to do macros. They seem to be the best way to approach the Limited format for this game. It is the Omens of Arcana. It says each hero starts the game with a lightning flow. So nice. Some of the work already done for you. And then lightning flow tokens get spell void 1. Notably also that this illusionist is also going to be dealing arcane damage. How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah. The second that I saw that, we were at the bar before Armory just getting some food and a drink, and we all watched the spoiler there, like the trailer, and then that popped up and I kind of like lost my mind for a minute because they not only gave me an illusionist with a cool effect, they then made him half wizard too. Yeah. So his weapon, for those who haven't seen it yet, you pay 1, you tap it, it does 2 arcane damage to your opponent, and you can only activate it, I believe, if
something with a hollow
lightning flow. No, you've had a hollow counter.
Yeah.
Put it into play this turn. So you basically have to activate his hero ability from what we've seen so far for it. But now I have a wizard illusionist, which is kind of sick.
Yeah.
But I think that the limited format could be really interesting. The similarity that I've seen the most with it is actually Part the Mistveil, which was a very good limited set overall, but still that same situation of 3 heroes that are all with a single talent. And we will have like the generic talent pool as well as then each hero pool. Format also had an illusionist in it. Was a really deep format, was also our Nats draft in 2024. So I have a lot of positive thoughts, hopefully, for this format, for a limited format. It's the first one we've had in a year, so I'm expecting they've cooked pretty heavily with this one as well. I'm excited. Like, we're going to have 2 different events in the span of a month between Nats and the Pro Tour with this as a limited format, so there's going to be a ton of it to play for everyone. It's going to be a ton of really exciting cards. The macro, I think, is a really kind of following up with the Rosetta way of approaching, of a really elegant way to deal with arcane sets without just printing AB in the set.
Yeah. I mean, you made a good point about Mistveil. I had kind of tried to push that one out of my brain, but that limited format was
too.
Awesome. It
was a rough 12 months with those heroes.
Yeah. It could have been less. I would have liked a little bit less, but that's just me. I think we're getting the illusionist wizard, right? Like you said, I think that there's a big tell that hero is going to be the one that they're, I think, the most happy with and like proud of, because it's also an armory deck upon release, or at least the week before, something like that, which is really cool. Love to see that. It took Pallades a hot minute to kind of be as cool as people, thought she would be. But we did see that, they were kind of pretty proud of that design as well. So yeah, I'm interested, man. I don't know how they're going to affect. Like, we don't really know, right? We don't know how they're going to affect any kind of format. But it is neat to see, and I think Aurora is definitely fixed now in more ways than one. And, essentially kind of got the same hero text, but you had to work for it a little bit harder.
New weapon, same weapon, shrug. We'll find out, since Starfall is gone, but not gone, so.
Well, yeah, didn't she sacrifice Starfall to resurrect Acilio, apparently?
Yeah, but she's got this hot new Runeblade that she's like holding down her back now because we have to show off the armpit while we're at it. But like, it's a completely different looking Runeblade, so we'll see. But like, it looks cool. Side note: I love all of the art design of the 3 heroes. Like, their marvels all look incredible. Aurora's with the red lightning border is fantastic. I think that these are maybe the most compelling hero designs that we've had in the last, at least the last year to me. All 3 of them have incredibly powerful things you can see on the front of what they're doing, but all 3 of them also have a bunch of design restrictions to them based off of the cards that you can play with them. Ziggy having lightning auras as their only ones that they can actually flicker limits a lot of what you can do with it. So you can't do stupid stuff like bouncing Essence of Ancestries or any other generic aura that would be strong with it. You have to kind of build around those lightning auras. You can still do disgusting things with them, like CLV is going to become a nightmare for people.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like really cool design space that they'll be able to interact with. Acilio, again, super powerful. You're effectively getting to cast an instant for free and make a ponder token once you play him. But again, you're still in that instant space, and you have to use resources now, unlike Acilio 1.0, because his ability isn't free now. And Aurora, again, you've lost at least 3 cards out of the elemental pool with her, so she's kind of toned down in power. She cost resources, which the first one didn't always have to do, and her consistency might be just a bit lower across the board because of the way that she has to interact with lightning flows. So they're all, I think, much more compelling than what they would look at first glance from a design perspective. And the levers that they'll get to tune in the set, I think, are really, really interesting, particularly based on just how much lightning flow we can make. Because we don't really know, right? Like,
Yeah.
How many do I get a game? Do I get 5? Do I get 10? Can I make like 20? If I can make a lot more, suddenly these are really, really strong. But if I have to manage them and have to deal with people being able to blow them up because of their auras, like it could potentially be dicey for them too.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting puzzle, and like I look at it like there's even just like elegant things like a card that I always wanted to play in Lightning decks is Channel Thunderstep, right? Like it's the potential's there, right? Like if you can just get all those resources, you're cooking. But it's cool with Ziggy. You pay into it. You pitch a lightning card, right? It's there for the channel on the bounce back, which is cool. So it's gonna be neat. It's gonna be neat. Now, I want to briefly ask you what you think, CC. It's gonna look like the next few weeks. You LL'd yourself out of the PQ season. So jealous because we're going into the great unknown, I think. Or maybe not known. We just had Montreal, right? But it was a pretty diverse pool, I think, right? We saw a lot of Marionette. I think that was kind of expected. I think it's a good deck to bring when people are figuring things out. It's disruptive. It's proven. But Dio won Montreal, but Vincent and June piloting her captured the hearts of many. Is it the real deal, though? Is Vincent the real deal?
First shout out to June. I thought they played the deck phenomenally well throughout the entire weekend. It really showed up every time that they were on stream. Vincent as a champion that is notoriously difficult to play and even more difficult to do well with consistently. Played it through the weekend. Had 1 loss in Swiss. Didn't lose again until the finals. So big congrats there. I think Vincent is kind of nuts, honestly. I think that she's really good. I think Deep Recesses is one of the most insane cards we've seen in a while, especially at a rare. It might be like the most powerful rare we've seen in a long time. And really unlocks a lot with the deck, with the way things with calls, with doing things with banishing other blood deck cards and Runegate cards. Grimoire Felling Song is insane for the deck, it turns out. That getting 1 Rune Chain at one point in the game can really swing what the deck does. I think that the big question mark through this season, right, is what will happen with Living Legend as each week goes. We saw this last spring, actually, with the PQ season then, of we have all of these heroes at the top in a small band. And each week, we kind of have domino effects that then change what the best deck is or what gets played next. First, it was Zen LL'd the first week, just barely. Then Viserai right after, because without Zen, Viserai was easily the best deck in the format. Or sorry, it was Viserai, then Aurora, then Enigma was the order with them?
Possibly.
Something like that. But the 4 of them basically went one after the other, because as the one before it went down, the next one suddenly became a lot better. Like they were already good, but then it just like the power level of the format slowly goes down. And then we're left with like Florian, with Stack Florian as the only thing that's like still around, and all of his counters are gone. So suddenly he gets 500 points in 2 weeks because people don't realize that you just play Fi into him. I'm not jaded at all, by the way. I think that we're in a really similar boat now where you have KO, I think, is gone after this weekend. So if you like Mandible Claw in any fashion, please play it this weekend. It's gone next weekend. Verdance isn't lasting this season at all. Prism is at the 1.5 multi, and even though I don't like the format for her, if you have a few people sneaking wins here and there, she has a good chance of being gone. Fi is like right there, supercharged with Fart of War and all of his new stuff. Syndra's like kind of a dark horse right behind him. Kasai's right behind them. Victor's right there, and we have 1,500 points going into the pool here. So those points have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of those decks at the top are like 120 points away. So there's going to be like 500 or 600 points going to heroes that people might not think of right away. We're going to have some really interesting weeks here, but my guess at the end is that we probably see 3 heroes LL and it might be 4. It could be higher, but it's going to take some really interesting format shifts for that. But I do think it's going to be a season of a lot of shifting stuff week over week. And the format at the end of March as we go into the peak, into Pro Tour Yokohama, is just going to look completely different than it is now. And there's no way that we know what it is until we actually see where the dust settles.
Yeah, no doubt. And like, I feel like a lot of the decks up at the top too are like, I guess maybe outside of like Verdance, but like there's a lot of aggro, right? That can just kind of like create a void. Right, like if all the aggro decks show up big in the first 2 weeks, like you said, KO's gone, no doubt. Dash.io is probably pretty far up there as well.
So Dio's at 582 right now, but the one other thing that I didn't mention is it's 1,500 points, not counting the multiplier either. Yeah. You have a lot of these heroes now, because at this point, it's what? Everything from heavy forward is on the 1.5 now, and
yes.
Everything between that and Hunted is now the most recent set is at the 1.0.
Yeah.
So Syndra, Mario, Slippy, Fang are now all kind of unlocked of like their brake pads. And Syndra is at 778 points. So like we have 10 heroes above the 600 point mark. And of those, what? KO, Prism, Fi, Bravo, Dori, Katsu, Kasai, Victor are all at the 1.5 multi mark.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there.
So Bravo's leaving is what I'm hearing here.
Look, it's been a long time coming, but get that asshole out of here. One of the first things that ever happened to me in a tournament was getting a turn 0 dominated crippling crush, and I've hated him ever since.
Yeah, understandable. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think that like it's so funny. This first weekend is going to be chaos, and then if we see more than one hero leave, I mean, I think KO's gone, right? Like we can kind of expect what week 2 is going to be like, but everything after that is going to be pretty crazy. I think this is where, I mean, I would say for LSS, this is working out perfectly for Yokohama. I think that it's going to be a pretty thrilling ride for at least to see who shows up with what, and that's going to be interesting. But yeah.
I don't think we're going to get a ban. There's a ban update on the 23rd, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't know how you ever ban anything out of this format after 4 heroes rotate either. So to me, it's like that's almost a formality. The real thing here that's going to be interesting is what heroes are left standing at the end of this.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. I'm so happy. I mean, I don't know what I'm actually going to play this weekend, and it's in 3 days. So I should probably figure it out. But we got some listener questions, my friend. The buds are pretty excited that you were coming on the show. First one's coming from...
I'm scared.
You should be. The first one comes from Turtle Matern, our dear friend, who asks, what are your favorite and least favorite set mechanics?
That's an interesting one. One of my favorites is a mechanic that LSS seems like they don't want anymore, which is Fuse.
Oh yeah,
I actually really enjoy the Fuse mechanic. I think one of the more elegant parts about the original Elemental Heroes was the Fuse mechanic, but it kind of got lost in the sauce of the effects aren't strong enough or interesting enough when you do fuse them sometimes to make up for the loss of value of having to keep a card. And the card that you would fuse with often was a card you don't want to arsenal either. It's not good enough to arsenal. So you would not want to arsenal it, but you have to keep it to fuse with, which led to like really weird states. So I'd love to see them take a second crack at fuse now. It seems like we're not going to get that, unfortunately, as they move away from it with the elemental sets. Now we're not even doing elemental at all. But I always really liked that and thought it was like a really interesting design space that kind of suffered from a little bit of awkward situations with the card pool. Least favorite, he'll hate it because I know what his favorite hero is, but it's not a specific it's not one typed mechanic, but I don't like banishing from deck effects. Specifically, I think that Bonds and Hunter or Hunted are two of the worst designed cards in Fab. Specifically for Hunter or Hunted, because we had this entire issue with Bonds before it was banned, where you could hit Arcane Seed's life, banish the life half, and then banish Rampants out of the deck as well, because they're named life. They fixed that with an errata, and then printed Hunter or Hunted, and specifically said, we're changing this wording just slightly so that you can do that now. And that's driven me crazy ever since.
Listen, when they play Hunted or Hunted, and they get the trigger from Arachne to look at the top, you let that trigger resolve, they look at the top, and then before Hunter or Hunted resolves, you activate Tough Nut. And they don't know what's on top anymore.
I have a better one for you that I did at Armory 2 nights ago. You swing your first Kadachi, it hits. You swing your second Kadachi, they Hunter or Hunted it. You let the Arachne resolve, you Iris of the Whirling Blossom, pitch your card, shuffle your deck, and say, guess a card for me.
Yeah.
Bonus points if the card you pitch is Fiddler's Green.
Ooh, yeah. That's nice. I do like popping a quiver of abyssal depths early.
Ooh.
When they do it. You're like, whatever. I'll throw hopefully three cards back into the deck and
sure.
You don't know. Nice answer though. Nice answer. Fuchsia comes in. It was a guest a few weeks ago. What is your favorite card art on a card that you will never play?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably has to be. Well, I'll never sleep up a Guardian. That's for sure. And maybe not a Ranger. Oh, what's the one Lexi card? Is it Flash Freeze?
Oh yeah.
It's like it's the lightning outline with the dark shape. That and what is it? Velashock.
Oh, I don't remember Velashock.
It's one of the old Fuse cards. Probably one of the Ranger elemental cards though. They're just all the elemental cards are gorgeous.
Yeah, they are. Good answer. Good question too.
Mm-hmm.
Junior comes in and asks, come up with a card you would like to see for any hero you like in the game. Pause for a busted illusionist card. Okay, now do one for mech. Pause, mediocre mech card. Okay, but for real, what would finally make Max a somewhat competitive deck?
I think it really depends on the way that you want to take Max. His obvious design mechanic is built around hyperdrivers and taking advantage of them. He also has the wrench sub mechanic and the construct mechanic. So it really depends on like the way that you want to play him. And we've seen so far them kind of try all three of those. And I don't know how successful any of them have actually been to this point because he's still like unplayable. I think that reasonably you need something that probably lets you manipulate your hyperdrivers better than you currently can, either fetching them from the deck or getting to recycle them a bit more so that you can actually consistently get their value off. Or like, I don't know, I guess it would be an item that says like at the start of your turn for every hyperdriver that activates like +1 your next attack. Something that kind of like gives them a bit more juice.
Mm-hmm.
He feels like a hero right now that just has too many different design directions pulling him, and they haven't quite figured out the thing that pulls him together. And it sucks to say, he's just kind of boring to me. Like from a design, like he's not like there's not a whole lot of depth with him, I think, compared to like what Dio has. I will say, I think that they can figure out something for him, because I think the new Teklo cards are really, really interesting and kind of push him in a whole new direction. So it's possible to do with mechs. It's just, it might change the way that he plays now. Maybe we have to just get rid of the hyperdriver thing entirely. Like, puffin with cogs is not it either, apparently. It's now puffin with pirate cards. So maybe 0 do nothing items aren't it for mechs.
Yeah, perhaps not. I mean, yeah, it sucks because I think he could have been a cooler hero, and we kind of just fell flat. But I have faith, Junior. I have faith. Next comes from Gary. Gary, who of course is asking, who's your favorite D tier Sage hero?
My favorite D tier. Oh, well, it can't be Vincent because Vincent's F tier.
Only
I have So nobody knows this. I actually have a really big soft spot for Benji. I think he's just like really cool, like just playing this idiot who just wants to throw ones at you and just be really annoying until you finally just let him hit you. So probably Benji. Although I guess you can say Prism is like even lower than D tier because she's unplayable in the format without her weapon. So I can't even name her. It turns out.
Yeah. No. She's not even. Thank God. Good answer. Capolo asks, why are mechs so unplayable in Sage? What do we need to do to make them viable?
Again, you're kind of in that situation where all these cards are designed for a bigger deck or a bigger life format. So when your mechanic is, I'm going to banish part of my deck to try to kill you, like every single deck is just going to say, okay, well, I'm just going to fatigue you if I can. If my deck's not half 2 blocks, I probably can. So they need a way to push damage over, or they need to be kind of like what the CC Puffin deck is that people are trying to play now with Cheating Scoundrel, kind of letting you play all the pirate cards. So you get to play Conquer the High Seas and Cheating Scoundrel and Seas and stuff like that. It's almost like approaching a mech identity that's not always boost focused has to be what they do, because if you're boost focused, you kind of the format. Guardians have 10 4 blocks just in class that are yellows, not to go off onto like every other block card they can play or every other like defensive thing they can do. You need to be able to play a mech that doesn't boost away half of your deck. And I think that's really the key for them. You either put the numbers so high that boost in your deck is like worth it, or you need to be able to do something that doesn't lose you your deck. So maybe it's just a card that says like when you boost or you put like X amount of banished cards back into your deck. Like maybe that gives them a bit more juice to do so. But I think boost right now just fundamentally doesn't work in a format where you're locked at 40 cards and your opponent can just fatigue you even easier than CC.
Yeah. It almost feels like they need like a combo or something like that if you're going to boost, like something that can just pop off, which is always tough to kind of introduce that to a format like that anyway. But one day, Capolo, always be crab and ask, what's your favorite thing you've seen Gary use for a rune chant token? Gary
he's really
Mr.
big
Viz,
into
by the way, everybody.
He's really big into a cookie run right now, or has been lately. And there's a purple cookie that he pulled that he put in the end of the rune chant box that it's pretty cool. I won't lie.
Listen, I've stared at that stack of rune chants many times.
At one point, there was a Seller One TCG player that had 235 4 rune chants at like 20 cents a piece. I told him that he had to buy it then, or he'd regret it, and he did not buy it. But I feel like there's regret there.
Yeah, most certainly. Greg, aka Darth Prentice, asks, do you think blank mains, so this is for Sage, like Briar and I guess mostly Decimator Great Axe were the big hits, and Kano to a certain extent, will pivot to a different hero after this ban, or will they be able to cook up a new strategy in time for Yokohama? Also, read any good books this year.
Okay. First off, for Sage, I don't think any deck got straight up murdered. And I think that they're going to try to approach Blitz or Sage in that fashion where they don't just completely kneecap a deck. I think Briar could still potentially be like one of the best aggro decks in the format. It depends if the ninjas are just better numbers than her now, but she still just is over for a go again over and over. Good books this year. I read. I've been reading a lot of China Mayville for anyone who hasn't read him yet. If you want something that will both kind of break your brain, but is also incredibly well written and also leave you really maybe feeling uneasy at the end of it, it's called Weird Fiction. Read Perdido Street Station and the novels after that are probably my favorite ones of the year. And whatever Sanderson releases this year, I'll just, take the easy answer.
It's a pretty common answer around here. And finally, William from the Table Pit goes, wow, it's so crazy. I let the buds know that we were going to be recording, and this is before the bans. And when I asked for questions, so William comes in and says, wow, it's so crazy that got banned in that format, isn't it? How are the mains going? How are the mains of those affected going to cope? It's a great question, William, and I think we answered it throughout this whole episode.
Yeah, they're going to sell out. They're going to sell their whole collection, that $20 deck. Going to sell their $20 ticket to the $2 million Pro Tour, and just be done until X deck or X champion becomes playable again.
Wow.
Then they'll buy back in for $20.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Now, this has been fun, my friend. This is a great episode. I think an all-timer, says I. So I need you to do one thing for me. I need you to plug everything that you would like to plug. And thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Anyone who wants to chat with me or follow me, it's at Vishra TCG on Blue Sky or just Vishra in Discord. I am a chronic discusser of Flesh and Blood topics. So if you have any, I will happily discuss them or rant about young hero formats at any point in time. Big shout out to all of the Fab community that are just like doing commentary and content like yourself. Shout out to all the other podcasts that do content each week. Everybody doing Metafy guides. I think that the community overall is just like what makes Flesh and Blood great, which is all of you. So thank you for tuning in with it and making content every week. Huge thanks to LSS for, making the game and everything they've done with content going forward. Yeah. Super
Sweet.
thankful for all of you and happy to be here. And it was fun.
It was fun. Thank you for that. We can still be found, or I guess I can be found on Blue Sky at freshbudspod. Check out the Buds Discord, Patreon. Fresh Juice is an indie game podcast I do with my cousin. And what else? Oh, geez. If you listen on Spotify, you can rate it. You listen on YouTube, give us the old like, comment, subscribe. Get that algorithm going. Tell me how wrong I am. I typically am. And that is all very helpful. Now, my friend, at the end of every episode, I like to talk about food. I want you to give a shout out to some food that you're either craving or you've been enjoying or you've had on your travels. Up to you.
Shout out to my wonderful partner, Elle, who makes the best gumbo I've ever had in my life. And shout out to Yokohama. I'm going to gain about 10 pounds here in a few weeks, but I'm really looking forward to the izakayas again. It's been, a year and a half since we were in Japan last? And some of my favorite memories of that trip were the food. So I am ecstatic to get to spend another couple weeks there. And I will probably have ramen reviews up on my Blue Sky every night in Yokohama. So anyone who wants to see random ramen shops around Japan, you will see a lot of them.
I will be watching and looking and living vicariously through you. That sounds amazing.
I'll bring you back one. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm sure it'll travel well.
I'm sure. Just a little sloshing around, but that's all right. And with all that sloshing around, we don't have time for Charmer, but I'm sure we'll get to him at some point. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vishra. Stay fresh.